Hello? Hello? Yeah.
Attention, everybody. The views and opinions expressed on the show are not necessarily those of Acts Ministry, Acts Media Group, and/or their affiliate and subordinate ministries and/or nonprofits. So now here he is, folks, the man with the plan to put gold in your hand, Tony Hammock.
Good morning, everyone out there in Axe Media Land. It is wonderful, splendid morning outside here in southwest Missouri. When I woke up, it was about 40. I think it's going to get up in the 60s, and hopefully you enjoy it. We weren't on last week for a couple of really good reasons, and hopefully you didn't miss us too much. But we do have a power-packed show today, and one of the reasons that we were not on last week was, unfortunately, we had the passing here of Bruce Pearson, and for those of the that knew Bruce, I mean, just an incredible guy, an incredible ministry with the veterans ministry here and so forth. So we will definitely miss him. We also had the passing of my dad. My dad passed on the 6th of November, and we had the services last Friday, the 13th, out at the Missouri Veterans Cemetery. So he'll be definitely missed. And then I had another dear friend whose stepfather passed down in Louisiana. So, and I think all three were related to this COVID-19. So rather than save this for the end of the show, please follow the rules, wear your masks, be careful, and this stuff is deadly. So hopefully you do not have to get it. Anyway, with all that said, probably the best place for me to start, especially on that kind of a somber note, is with a devotional. And as you well know, for those of you that have tuned in over the months and years, I guess at this point of the show, I like to have my stewardship devotional early in the show, just mainly so we can not forget it. I say we forget it. It would be on me, so I don't forget it. But anyway, today's lesson is called Riches. And it says, the faithful steward who strategically uses the spiritual access, authority, gifts, talents, and treasures God has given will experience the rewards of true riches. This is Luke 16:11. Now, I don't want you to confuse true riches with wealth. Excuse me. In fact, one can have true riches while still having very little money. Jesus made a clear distinction between the two in his statement on both. He said, if someone is not faithful stewarding unrighteous wealth, then who would trust that person with true riches? The reason these are different is because true riches have nothing to do with money. True riches are when God invades your circumstances and becomes so real to you that you can reach out and touch him. True riches are when the spiritual leaves heaven and joins you on earth to affect your circumstances. True riches are when heaven shows you how much God has in his bank account, even when all of your bank accounts have run dry. True riches involve God's hand, his provision, the manifestation of his power, and the intervention of God himself. By becoming a strategic kingdom steward, you can change the trajectory of your life on earth and receive greater reward in heaven. Use what God has given you. Use the authority he's provided you in his name. Set people free from bondage through discipling them, helping the poor and oppressed, and pointing them to the Savior. As you cut the cords of Satan's hold on others, you are laying up for yourself treasures that no moth will eat and no rust will destroy. And that particular devotional was the last one in this course. Next week I'll have a new course, and we can start with lesson one of that one. But boy, that was a interesting devotional. It kind of goes on the theme. I think that's the underlying theme of a lot of our lessons of late, which is, there's some folks that seem to have more wealth, and if you're doing the right things with your wealth, then you, in this case, would be entitled to true riches. So possibly, not possibly, but tithing, helping the less fortunate, spreading the word of God, and so forth. Jim Whining's a person that always says you may be the only copy of the Bible that someone sees. So you want to make sure that you're you're always ready to share God's strength and wisdom with them, and if you've got an extra Bible, share a Bible with them. Anyway, that is our lesson for this morning, and you can see why I like that and like to get it out of the way early. It kind of sets the tone and stuff. You know, our show is about alternative assets, and of late we've been spending a lot of time on gold and silver. But a couple weeks ago, we finally did a course on Bitcoin, or on cryptos, I should say, and both have had an interesting month. Now, I haven't checked this morning to see how things are going, but let me take a quick peek and see what Bitcoin has been doing this morning, because it has been on a tear. And so right now, Bitcoin is $17,828.89. It's up 4.25% today, and today is what, the 7th, 8th, 9th, the 9th, no, 19th. Got 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18th. There we go. And I've got my smartphone right here with the date probably on it someplace if I could see it. But anyway, so it's the 18th, and Bitcoin is up that much today. Now let me step you through this because it's kind of interesting. For the week, Bitcoin is up 14.6%, and for the month, it's up 57.3%. Now think about that. 57.3% in a month. So quite a run. And there's a lot of folks that think Bitcoin may be due for a little bit of a consolidation, or not a correction per se, but just a chance to consolidate. A lot of times when assets have a steep run up, people don't really feel good about it until they've kind of had a chance to kind of come down a little bit and provide that foundation, if you will, and then go on back up. So I think that's what we're kind of hoping for with Bitcoin and stuff. For the year, Bitcoin is up over 126%. And so it's been on quite a run. I mean, just this year alone, I mean, you can go back to March. And, of course, in March, everything went down, as we remember. And Bitcoin at one point in March was $3,858 a coin, $38.58 a coin. And earlier today, it touched $18,488. It's currently at $17,828. So quite a run indeed. And, a lot of the things that we always talk about on this show still hold true with this, which is, a lot of people would think it's too late. A lot of people would probably want to stay the heck away from Bitcoin. And we always say that, I mean, it's not for widows and orphans. It's not for anybody who has zero tolerance for risk. This is a very volatile and risky type of instrument. And the only money that I would ever put into Bitcoin is money that if I lost it, it would not crush me. It would, I'd be able to go forward. And I think that's the way most people should look at it and stuff. Some of the macro trends in Bitcoin, though, that have been changing, which probably is a good reason for this increase in price and further increases as time goes by, is that now that it's a couple of years older, it's a little bit more conventional, a little bit more mainstream. A lot of the institutions are starting to put their money in Bitcoin as an alternative to cash. And rightly so. I mean, let's face it, the cash doesn't earn much if it's in a bank or a money market. And so with Bitcoin, there's a chance, obviously, to make more than it can in the bank. Excuse me. So you've seen several major corporations of late, that have put some serious dollars into Bitcoin. Square, Jack Dorsey's company that some of you probably have seen, when you check out at a store, a person will take your card and run it through that little white connector thing on top of their phone or at the register or their iPad or something. That's all Square. And Square is setting the world on fire as far as fintech is concerned. Some of the things they're bringing to the whole financial industry are revolutionary. And just recently, last month, to be exact, Square put $50 million into Bitcoin, and that's a sizable sum. There's been several large investors. Mr. Druckenmiller on Monday was on the air being interviewed, and now he's a big fan of Bitcoin. By the way, if you don't know Mr. Druckenmiller, he is a billionaire. Mr. Tudor Jones was interviewed last week, and he's come around. He is a big fan of the Bitcoin and cryptos. And I could go on and on. Bill Miller, the guy that used to run the Legg Mason Value Fund, I think it was called, he's now got his own firm. Just a very prodigious money manager on Wall Street. He's a big fan of Bitcoin. And, I could probably sit here and take the whole show thinking of other folks or institutions that have started to put money into Bitcoin. And I think mainly from what I can read when I hear these stories or see these stories, a lot of it has to do with the finite number of Bitcoins that can ever be issued. It's 21 million. That's it. And right now we're over 19 million, and so there's another 2 million, but that's going to take some time. We had a halving in May. Bitcoin had this halving thing that only happens every 4 years. And when the halving happens, it literally cuts the number of Bitcoins in half that can be mined during the year. So the original white paper or creator of Bitcoin had it to where towards the end it would get slower and slower as far as meeting that 21 million. So that's part of what's going on. There are a lot of other things going on. We've got the money supply, we've got interest rates. In some countries, we've got negative interest rates. A lot of it's the same old that we've been talking about now for months on the show as far as the instability of the financial part of our world. It's not just the U.S., it's worldwide. And, there's talk of a reset. Don't know what that would look like. Bretton Woods, back in 44, that's when all the United Nations got together in Bretton Woods, New Hampshire, and created the currency, so to speak, going forward. The U.S. dollar was decided on being the reserve currency of the world, and has been up till now. It's on probably shakiest ground it's been on for a while, but we'll see how that goes and so forth. But there's talk of having another Bretton Woods where just everybody gets together someplace, and I don't know, maybe it's Bretton Woods again, but basically kind of hashing out how we're going to go forward, because the amount of debt that this country and this world has is just insurmountable. It's just mind-boggling when you start thinking about not only the precedent that it sets, but how in the world are they going to, ever overcome this? And so I think it'll be interesting this next year to see what happens and who kind of comes to the surface as far as ideas and decisions and so forth and so on. I read a story the other day, and it was talking about what if we went back to the gold standard, and what would the price of gold be if that happened. And right now, in fact, I have this queued up on my screen. The gold ask right now is $1,878. So when I say this next amount, think about that for a second. Right now, you can buy an ounce of gold. The spot is $1,878. You're probably going to pay more than that because no one gets it at spot. But, if you go through some of the sources we've talked about before, you can get it, probably the best dealer direct pricing there is. But anyway, that's in fact, you know what, now that I think about it, I can tell you. So if the spot's $1,878, the price of a gold eagle is $19.68.99. So, what is that about 1968? Oops. Was that about $90? Yeah. So about $90 premium. Now that's going with the Gold Eagle. If you went with something else besides the Gold Eagle, the odds are the premium might be a little less. It could be a little more, just depending on what it is that you'd be looking at and stuff. But my point is that if we went back to a gold standard, this author of the article I was reading had done the calculations and all that, and had come up with that gold would be $5,288 an ounce. So if the spot right now is $18.79 and 70 cents, and if we went back to the gold standard, it would be over $5,200. That might be something to think about. Although I will tell you this, yesterday I noticed that President Trump's nominee for the Federal Reserve, I want to say her name was Shelton, did not get through the Senate. So that's interesting in the fact that she was a big fan of the gold standard. So I don't know if that means our ability to ever go back on the gold standard has been stymied for the moment or what. And, there's just so much going on Capitol Hill as far as the aftermath of the election and things that are going on both sides of the aisle and so forth that I don't know if necessarily, yesterday's vote was probably the right vote, but because I do know that she was very, very, very qualified. And so we'll see what happens there and stuff. But not to get off too far in the weeds, let's get into some pricing besides just the gold price, because I got to tell you, there's other vehicles out there that we work with, and they are all doing some good stuff. No, we're good. We're good. So let me get to some of those real quick here for us. There we go. So we've talked about gold quite a bit. Now it's $18.80 and 50 cents. Silver is $24.52 an ounce. Platinum is 946 cents an ounce. Palladium is $2,380 an ounce, and rhodium is $14,800. And all those are what are called precious metals, and those are all by the ounces. So 3 are up, 2 are down. Rhodium's up $400 at $14,800. Base metals. Now these prices are by the pound. Copper is $3.21. Now that's incredible, because if you can remember, if you are tuning into the show week in, week out, you know that 6 months ago I was looking at this telling you that copper is kind of a interesting play, and back then copper was less than $3 a pound, and today it's at $3.21 a pound. There's a huge demand for copper out of China, and we've talked about supply and demand before. That's kind of what happens with all these different alternative assets. Aluminum, 89 cents a pound. Zinc's $1.23. Lead's 86 cents, and uranium is $29.70 a pound. And crude oil is $42 and a penny per barrel. And the Dow right now, and all these prices are as of 9:21 this morning, 9:21 Central Standard Time. But the Dow Jones Industrial Average was up 95 points. It's at 29,878. And it looks to me like it's primed to, maybe go past 30,000 for the first time ever. The Nasdaq's down 30 points. It's 11,868, and the S&P is 3,612, which are all very impressive. There's just a lot of things going on out there in our financial world, and there's a lot of reasons why. I mean, I think a lot of these prices are pumped up because of the stimulus package that everybody thinks is right around the corner. I know yesterday I was reading that the thought is that may not happen until after the first of the year, which I feel sorry for the folks that need it. I mean, let's face it, the one stimulus package was a shot in the arm, and I know the folks that received that are very grateful. At least I would hope so. But for a lot of reasons, they're taking their sweet time on getting a second stimulus package out. So I think the market's kind of pricing that in a little bit as far as, thinking that once we have another stimulus package, there'll be some folks that actually put those dollars to work in the market, and gold and silver, and, all these different things that we always talk about. And, we'll wait and see what happens there. But I know that things take a while when they have to go through the House and the Senate, and right now probably even more so than ever. So we will wait and see how long that takes. As far as the gold and silver goes, silver's at $24.50 an ounce, and I kind of have left it behind so far in this morning's conversation. Silver's the one that most folks out there think is going to take off. I mean, usually silver, once it catches up to gold, will outpace gold. The thing with silver is it's more volatile than gold. So depending on how aggressive an investor you are, and so forth, it kind of depends on, how much silver you want. So, most people, we tell them, let's have 75% in gold and 25% in silver, and that should be a good mix. If you're a little bit more aggressive, maybe a 50-50 split or something like that. But, I mean, there's folks out there that, and they have a lot of numbers to back it up, but they say that silver will probably get up over $100 an ounce. And, I always take a lot of that with, tongue-in-cheek, so to speak, or a grain of salt and stuff. But still, I think silver is worth taking a look at. In fact, speaking of silver, one of the things that's new since the last time I saw y'all was I got my most recent Silver Eagle from 7K. Pardon me. And so that came earlier this week. I have my coin that I purchase monthly coming out on the 8th. I have so much going on the 1st of the month. And you can choose 5 different dates during the month you want yours to come out and be charged to your credit card and sent to you. The 1st, the 8th, the 15th, the 21st, or the 26th. And for the moment, I've kind of settled on the 8th. But what this is a 2020 Silver Eagle. I know that it's always a challenge for you to see it from that distance, but if you ever wanted to see it up closer, give me a shout, 417-755-0700. And this is part of the 50 state series. This is state 10 of 50. This is Pennsylvania. And they've got a little picture of the Liberty Bell up there in the right-hand corner. And it's an MS-70. And I was excited to get this for my collection. At this point, I think I've got 7 or 8 of the different state series. Unfortunately, I got a few duplicates. So I'll probably eventually be trying to figure out a way to swap a duplicate to somebody for a state that I don't have. But, I've got a lot of time to work on that. That's not something that's, needs to be done yesterday or something. But anyway, these coins, the important part are MS-70. The MS stands for Mint State, and the 70 is the highest rating they can get. In other words, it's perfect. And you can see they're sealed in this plastic case. And I learned a couple weeks back at a coin conference that was here in Springfield at the Omniflex, or Optiflex, Omniflex, I think it's called, up there at the fairgrounds. And there was only about 50 to 60 dealers that were there to display their goods and wares and so forth. But a lot of them were very, very knowledgeable. And there was this one gentleman that I had kind of told him a little bit about the, don't make the $1.2 million mistake. And he's like, what? And I said, yeah, one of the companies that I have sponsor my show, they have this story they like to talk about, which is don't make the $1.2 million mistake. And he goes, well, what's that? And I said, well, these Silver Eagles, they started back in 86. President Reagan, I think, was still in office. And so in 86, they started making Silver Eagles and Gold Eagles. And if you had started the very first month and added a Silver Eagle to your collection every month through November 1st, you'd have, 416, 417 of them. And the total would be worth, their value would be worth 1.2 million. He's like, there's no way. I said, yeah, yes way. I said, I know for a fact, because I've looked it up, that the 96s are over $6,000 a piece. And he's like, you're out of your mind, man. There's no way. And he's a dealer. And I said, well, the 99s are over $19,000 a piece. And he's, and at that point, he's so disturbed by my comments that he goes behind the table he had displaying all his coins, and he gets a little binder and then brings it back to me. And then this binder, it'd be like this. In this binder, he opens it up and he goes to a page and he's looking at the page and he's like, see, the 96 is this, and it's like 150 or 300 or something, and then he goes to the 99s and they're a little bit more. And I'm looking at the page so I can see what's going on, and what it was like a spreadsheet. So over on the extreme right was a column, and I could see the 6,000 for the 96, and I could see the 19,000 for the 99s. And I said, well, that's what I'm talking about. And I pointed to that column, and he goes, oh, well, that's for the MS-70s. And I said, well, that's what I'm talking about, is MS-70s. The company I have as one of my sponsors, I mean, they prefer to work and distribute MS-70s. Now, if they can't get an MS-70, it'll be an MS-69. And, there's such things as all the way down to MS-65s and stuff like that, depending on their quality and stuff. But I said, for the most part, I would think that probably 90% of the coins I've gotten over the years have been MS-70s. And so he goes like, oh, well, why didn't you say something? I was like, well, I didn't know I needed to be that specific, but, I obviously wanted to be charming and polite and stuff like that. So, but, we had that moment of clarity where it's like, oh, I'm talking about MS-70s. So, anyway, that is what we're talking about. Now, what also comes in my little monthly coin these days is they've switched their travel program, and now it is called the 7K Advantage program. So like in this case, it says you just earned another free month of the 7K Advantage, helping you save where you have to spend so you can spend more where you want. And it says the average monthly member savings is about $100. And the neat thing about this one is that this one includes airfare and things around town. The other night we were getting ready to go to a restaurant here in town, and I said, "Wait a minute, let me see if it's on this 7K Advantage thing." And sure enough, it was. And we saved a couple bucks with the dinner. All I had to do was once I pulled that down, I just had to show the waiter, my phone, and he was able to get what he needed off that little barcode or something. And, we saved $10 or $12 for the three of us. So, that's definitely worth it right there. Plus, airfare is now included. And not that many people right now are doing a lot of airfare, but we will sometime in the future. And so this is kind of a handy thing to be included here, I think, so that you can, live the gold and silver lifestyle. I also got a little card in it that talks about Pennsylvania. And like, for example, this coin, the year of issue is 2020. U.S. is the country of issue. U.S. Mint $1, 1 troy ounce. Metal purity 0.999. And then metal composition is fine silver, and the population is only 5,500. And so it says, if you like history, but put Pennsylvania on the short list of states to visit. From Hershey being the U.S. chocolate capital to having the first zoo and being the first presidential mansion place, to Betsy Ross making the first American flag, and much more. You definitely won't get bored. And so there's the Pennsylvania Silver Eagle that I will put in my collection when I get back to the house. And you too could be getting these if you ever wanted to look into 7K. We're starting to add more and more people here locally, and we're getting ready to start having weekly meetings. We're going to have one weekly meeting on Tuesday nights where if you're thinking about 7K and or gold and silver, we'll be doing it on Zoom starting out, and then as things loosen up with the restaurants, we'll probably start doing them over at Prima's, my favorite place, or someplace in town that has a room where we can do that. And then Thursday nights, I believe we're going to start doing a training session for those that are on board because, the 7K program does have a lot of features and benefits. I mean, for example, you can get a health plan. Yeah, that's right. I mean, it's not health insurance, but it's a health plan where it's there's no deductible. It's from $1. They'll work with you if you have pre-existing conditions. It's literally called 7K Health, and it's through the SBA out of Colorado. And if you're a business owner, you can contact me, and we can get you in. All you need to do is be a member of the SBA, which is $2 a month, $24 a year. If you're not a business owner, you can get it through 7K Metals, and there you need to become a member. And once you're a member, in theory, you're kind of in business for yourself, so you can then join the 7K Health. So, pardon me. Anyway, they've got the IRA, the gold IRA, which is through New Directions Trust Company, also out of Colorado. And their IRA is absolutely phenomenal. I mean, I've been in the financial services industry since 1980, and I don't think I've ever seen a self-directed IRA that had more options. I mean, you can put real estate in this IRA. You can put personal financing. You can put private equity. That's the one I was trying to reach from the memory thing there. It was private equity. I mean, there's just a whole host of things that you can put in there. And, of course, metals. And then, of course, the typical stuff, mutual funds, stocks, bonds, things like that. So it is a pretty hefty option if you're looking for a self-directed IRA. And then they've got a couple other things out there that are just really, really neat. They've got a membership you can